How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Ches, Daf 38 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, yo friends. Chevre, Daf Lamed Ches is a treat. The Eibishter gave us a treat because we've been so good. We've been working really hard for the past while, and the Eibishter, we can really appreciate a daf like Daf Lamed Ches after all the hard work that we've been putting in. Now, I actually made a mistake. I finished the daf yesterday earlier than I had actually planned to. So we have a little bit of work to do on Daf Lamed Zayin, but it's all good. It's all good. Today's daf. So once we get into Daf Lamed Ches, we should be able to move. Maybe Al Daf could try to keep it moving just so that we can have a short daf after the very, very long ones recently. So yeah, it's bigadol. It's not a difficult daf. So okay, we're going to start Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis at the Mishnah. Shor shel Yisrael shenogach shor shel hekdish v'shel hekdish shenogach the shor shel hedyet. Okay, pater shneimar shor re'eu v'lo shor shel hekdish. Shor shel Yisrael shenogach the shor shel knani pater v'shel knani shenogach the shor shel Yisrael bein tam bein muad mishalem nezek shalem. Does anybody want to volunteer to translate and explain this Mishnah for us? Okay, let's read it again slowly. Shor shel, so change Yisrael to Nochri so it's consistent. It's the next line. That's what the Agos Abach says. Shor shel Nochri Hedjit. Shor shel Hedjit she nogach shor shel hekdish. So if regular old shor gores a shor that was hekdish, somebody said he's going to bring it as a korban, v'shel hekdish shenogach l'shor shel hedit, or fakert, a shor belonging to the Beis Hamikdash, belonging to hekdish, gored a shor, a regular shor, potter. In both of those scenarios, there will not be any payment due. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, shor re'eu v'lo shor shel hekdish. In the context of payments for damages, we're talking about your fellow's shor, but not a shor that is hektish. And if one of the shvarim is hektish, there will not be any payment necessary. Shor shel Yisrael shenogach shor shel knaini, a shor of a yid that gores the shor of a knaini, potter. So the yid is potter. V'shel knaini shenogach shor shel Yisrael. But if it's fakert, if the shor of a knaini gores the shor of a yid, Bein tam, bein muad, whether it's a shor tam, whether it's a shor muad, mishalim nezek shalim, the payment is going to be nezek shalim. Says the Gemara, must listen to look at Reb Shimon ben Menashe. Our Mishnah is unlike Reb Shimon ben Menashe. The Tanya that we learn in the Brayso, shor shel hedyet, shenogach shor shel hekdish, v'shel hekdish, shenogach shor shel hedyet. So we have a Brayso that says that a regular shor that gores a shor of hekdish, or fakert, a shor of hektish that gores a regular shor, potter, so there is no payment. Shneimar, the pasuk says, shor re'eu v'lo shor shel hektish, and your fellow's shor to the exclusion of a shor of hektish. Reb Shimon ben Menashe Omer says, Reb Shimon ben Menashe, shor shel hektish shenogach shor shel hedjit potter. Says Reb Shimon ben Menashe that a shor of hektish that gores a regular shor, so there's no payment, but v'shel hedjit shenogach shor shel hektish. But if it's a shor shel hedjit that gores a hektish shor, bein tam, bein muad, mishalim nezek shalim, whether the goring shor of the hedjit was a tam, whether it was a muad, makes no difference. The payment is going to be nezek shalim. Okay, so we see that this is unlike what our Mishnah, right? Reb Shimon ben Menashe is saying unlike our Mishnah. Okay. Amri Maiko Savar Reb Shimon. So now what's pshat with Reb Shimon ben Menashe? How come he's saying that a shor shel hekdish that gores a shor shel hedjit there's no payment, and yet a shor shel, when it's fakert, when a shor shel hedjit gores a shor shel hekdish, regardless it will always be nezek shalim? If when the pasuk says a shor of a fellow, it literally means a fellow, not hektish. Well, in that case, then a shor shel hedget that goes a shor shel hektish, there should be no payment. Afilu shel hedget shenogach shel hektish lipoter. There should not be any payment because it's not the shor re'ehu. Re'ehu lav davke, and if re'ehu is not davke, when it says a fellow, it doesn't necessarily mean a fellow could even be hektish. Well, if that's the case, afilu de hektish nami ki nogach de hedget lichayiv. So even if a shor shel hektish goes a shor shel hedget, there should be chayiv because re'ehu, your fellow is not literal. So v'chitem l'olam k'sav re'ehu davke, and if you're going to say that he holds that re'ehu is literal to the exclusion of hektish, umiu, but nonetheless, the hedget kinogach the hektish, hainu tamid michayev, but nonetheless, still, when a shor shel hedget gores a shor shel hektish, there is going to be a payment, because from the following kavachomer, mishum de kamaisile mikavachomer, the hedget, from a hedget to my hedget, shnogach shel hedget chayev, because if after all, a regular shor that gores just a regular shor, there's going to be payment, kinogach de hektish lo kol sheken, well certainly a regular shor that is goring a shor that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, certainly there should be a payment there. So technically we could say re'ehu is literal to the exclusion of hektish, but just because of the, so that would apply if a shor shel hektish gores a shor shel hedget. However, a shor shel hedget that goes a shor shel hektish, even though technically meikar adin, there shouldn't be payment, but from the following logical conclusion, there would be payment, which is that if a shor shel hedget goes a shor shel hedget, there's a payment. So certainly it would make sense that a shor shel hedget that goes a shor shel hektish, there should be payment. Lo kol sheken mechayev dayulov min adin lios kanidon. But wait 1 second. So meaning so there's a kasha, right? Meaning v'chite. I'm going to back up a few lines just to get the flow, right? V'chite mela'olam ksavre ehu davka umiu dehedget kinogach dehekdish hainu tamidim chayiv demishum dekamaysi lemikavachomer dehedget uma hedget shnogach shel hedget chayiv kinogach dehekdish lo kol sheken demichayiv. But now here's the kasha. Even if you say this kavachomer, dayulav menadin lios kanidin, that we should say dayov lavo menadin lios kanidon. That if we're bringing this kal vachomer from hedget, that if a shor shel hedget goes to shor shel hedget, certainly a shor shel hedget that goes to shor shel hedget should be chayiv. But then, as we've seen the concept, dayo lavo menadin lios kanidon, right? We learned that the other day. From Miriam, right? So ma laholam tam chatzi nezek, kochanami chatzi nezek. But if that's the case, that we're learning out from hedget, well, shor shel hedget shenogach shor shel hedget. Tam is chatzi nezek. Why is Reb Shimon ben Menashe saying that when a shor shel tam, a shel hedget goes to shor shel hektish, bein tam, bein muad, it's nezek shalim? What do you mean? If we're learning out from hedget, it should be the same halachos of a hedget. Ela amru Rish Lakish. So rather, Rish Lakish explains like this. It's very beautiful. Hakol ayu b'chlal nezek shalim. Look, this right, re'ehu, the word re'ehu, to which we exclude hekdish, that is specifically in the context of chatzi nezek, right? That's simply where the pasuk is. Right? V'chiyigo of shor ish as shor ehu v'mes u'machros as shor achai v'chatzu es kaspo v'gamus ha'misech etzun chatzi nezek. So it says ehu in the context of chatzi nezek, which means in the context of muad, there is no such distinction of ehu to the exclusion of hektish, and therefore it includes hektish as well. So when it comes to nezek shalim, when it comes to shor muad, it includes shor ehu, shor shel hektish. There's no such distinctions, and therefore that should apply to shor tam as well. There's no such distinctions between ehu or hektish. You're going to have to pay. So then, what's the exclusion when we say ehu by shor tam to the exclusion of hektish? What it's excluding is that by shor ehu, right, a hedget that goes a hedget, it's going to be chatzi nezek to the exclusion of hektish, which is it's going to be nezek shalim, right? Meaning we were saying up until now that when it says ehu, it means that there's only payments when it comes to hedget, but not hedget to hektish. Rish Lakish explains that Shimon ben Menashe is saying, no way, no how. There's always going to be a payment, whether it's hedget to hedget or hedget to hektish. The only thing that's excluded from Re'eyu is that specifically Hedjit, and Hedjit is where there's Chatzi Nezek by a short time, to the exclusion of Hektish, that if a shor shel Hedjit goes a shor shel Hektish, there's no Chatzi Nezek. It's always going to be Nezek Shalim. You hear that? It's very beautiful. Right? There's 2 lines to the bottom of Lam Zayin and base. Elo Amr Shlakish, rather says Shlakish Akol Ayu Bichlal Nezek Shalim. Everything was included in Nezek Shalim. There was no Re'eyu in the context of Shor Mud, in the context of Nezek Shalim. Kisheper L'cha Akasav Re'eyu Gabe Tam. So then when the pasuk says Re'eyu in the context of Tam, so what is that teaching? It's teaching that by a short Tam, Re'eyu hu de Tam V'shalim Chatzi Nezek, that only by Re'eyu, only by a Hedjit, and a Hedjit is where there's Chatzi Nezek, Michlal de Hekdish, Ben Tam Ben Mud, Mishalim Nezek Shalim. But by Hekdish, regardless of if it's a Tam or a Mud, there's no such distinction. It's always going to be Nezek Shalim. Because if it was excluding Hekdish from all payments, so then it should have been, then Re'eyu, to exclude Hekdish, should have been by Muad, which would then trickle down to kind of all payments. But it doesn't mention Re'eyu by Muad, by Nezek Shalim. It only mentions it by Chatzi Nezek, by Shortam. So that is to say that it's just excluding Hektish from Chatzi Nezek payments, i.e. Shor Hedjit, Shnogach Shor Hektish will always be Nezek Shalim. That is Reb Shimon ben Manasseh's opinion. Okay, fine. And then Rashi had said in the Dibra Maschil, the Imkaid, which is actually on Lam Zayin Amud Beis, it's a long one, but he says, Aval Hektish, second line of that Rashi, Behedjit, but a Hektish that gores a Hedjit, Potter. The Hektish Afilu Bichlal Muad, Lohaya, that Hektish is not included even by the pasuk of Muad, to let remember V'huad Bivalam, because who are you gonna warn? Right? It belongs to the Beis Hamikdash. V'choshkim B'tam, Tichsev V'chiyigov Shor Ish, and also certainly by a Tam where it says Shor Ish, and not Shor, meaning if the Shor of Ish gores, not the Shor of Hektish. Fine. Now, so that actually took, right, I had meant to do that first part at the end of the daf yesterday, but I guess I forgot. So that, okay, but now we're getting into now we're on Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, at the top of the daf now, and the rest of the daf, for the most part, really, is not very difficult. So, Shor Shel Yisrael, Shenogach Shor Shel Knaini Potter, so, the shore of a Yid that gores the shore of a Knaini, so the Yid is going to be Potter. Amrei Mimon Avshach, we say, wait, I don't understand. If we're saying Re'eyu Davka, that to the exclusion of a Knaini, so if that's the case, so the Knaini Kinogach di Yisrael Namili Potter, well then if the Knaini's gores of Yisrael, then he should also be Potter. If Re'eyu lav davka, and if Re'eyu isn't specific, and even Knanis are included, well then Afilu Disol, Kinogach de Knani Nechayev. Well then even if a Yid gores the ox of a Knani, he should oichet be chayev. So Amar Ababo says, Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Amar vayimoded eretz, Ra'a vayater goyim. That he stood up and he, I guess, measured the land, and he saw and he permitted the goyim. Ra'a sheva mitzvahs, Shekiblu aleim b'nei Noach, that he saw that the 7 mitzvahs that the b'nei Noach accepted upon themselves, Kevin shelo kiyimu, they were not mekayim the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So Omar v'hitir mamonon liYisrael. So the Eibishter permitted their money to the Yidden to the extent that if the shore of a Knaini gores the shore of Yisrael, it's always going to be Nezek Shalim. But if the shore of Yisrael gores the shore of a Knaini, it's going to be Potter. Rabbi Yochanan says from here, Ofir me'ar paron, mi paron ofia, from paron he sort of Rashi says Gila mamon v'itiru, made the money available the Yisrael to the Yidden. Okay, so from our paron he made their mamonam available to the Yidden. Tani Nam Yochim, Yochim learn in a brayso like this: Shorsha Yisrael Shenogach Shorsha Knaini Potter, the shore of a Yid that goes the shore of a Knaini, Potter from payment. Shoshal Knani Shnogach Shoshal Yisrael. However, if the shore of a Knani goes to Shoshal Yisrael, Bein Tam, Bein Muad, whether it's a short time, whether it's a short Muad, Mishalim Nezek Shalim, it's going to be Nezek Shalim Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Omad Ve'imodid Eretz, Rav Ayater Goyim, that he made the money of the Canaanim permitted to the Yidden. V'ofir Me'aparon, and also the pasuk of Ofir Me'aparon, that he made their money available from Harparan. Ma'ava Omer, how come we need that second pasuk of Harparan? Why is the first pasuk of Vayater Rav Vayater Goyim? Why is that not enough? So v'chitem, if you're going to say Hi Omar Vaymodid Eretz Miboy Lichtrav Masno Chudrav Yosef, well, maybe you'll say that pasuk of Omar Vaymodid Eretz is needed for like Rav Masno of Yosef that we're about to explain what they are in a second. So Tashma Ofir Me'aparan. So therefore, no. Even if that initial pasuk was needed for other things, we still have the pasuk of Hofia Me'aparan. Miparan Hofia Mamonon L'Yisrael. From Paran, he made their Mamonon available to the Yidden. My dear Rav Masna. So what is this Rav Masna? Dam Rav Masna says Rav Masna Omad Vaymoded Eretz Ra V'Gomer Ma Ra. What did they wish to see? Ra Shev Mitzvahs Shenistav Olem Bnei Noach V'Lo Kiyamum. That he saw that that they were not mekayim the shev mitzvahs b'nei Noach omad v'igla osam mi'alad mosam. So he went and he exiled them from their lands. Umay mashma dahai vayater lishna da'agluye. Who? How do we know that this pasuk of ra vayater goyim means that he exiled them? Ksivacha vayater goyim, it says over here vayater goyim. Uchsiv hasum, it says over there lenater boyim al aretz, by like grasshoppers, by their like antenna thingies, that they it's to jump around. The kapotza be'on al to jump around on the ground. So here also it's like to exile people, to move them around to different places. My Rav Yosef, and what's Rav Yosef's use of that pasuk? Rav Yosef says Rav Yosef, Omad vaymoded eretz ra v'gomer ma ra. What did they wish to see? Ra shev mitzvahs shekiblu aleim b'nei Noach v'lo kiyamum. He saw that the Knainim were not mekayim the shev mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Omad v'itiran loem. So he made them permitted to them. He said that they weren't being mekayim the shev mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So he said, all right, now they're mutter. Iskar. What do you mean he makes them permitted? Im kain matzinu chote niskar. So what? We're seeing that today in current events. Okay, I'll leave it there. But just because you sin, you should be able to get. You should be able to get away with it. So Amar Mar Marbre de Ravina Lomar Shafilu Mekaymin Osan Ein Mekablin Alein Sachar. No, what it's saying is that no, there wasn't mutter to them, but it means that even if they were to be Mekayim them, they would not receive Sachar for them. Vilo, what do you mean they wouldn't receive Sachar? Vilo Tanya, they would learn in a brayso. Meir Omer Minayin Shafilu Nachri Vosek Bator Shehu Kikoyin Gadol. How do we know that even a Nachri who learns Torah, like we're learning Torah, he's like a Kohen Gadol? Tamlom Asher Yaisa Osam Adam V'chai Boim, that any person who does them will live through them. Kanim Levim V'Yisraelim Lo Nemar doesn't say Kanim Levim V'Yisraelim Elo Adam, it says Adam, any person. Halmata Shafilu Nachri V'Osik Bator Harei Kohen Gadol. Even a Nachri who sits and learns is like a Kohen Gadol. They say in Ein Mekabel Malem Sachar Ki Mitzuvah V'Oseh Elo Ki Misha Ein Mitzuvah V'Oseh. They say yeah, but they only receive Sachar like in Eino Mitzuvah V'Oseh. Sure, they could be like the high priest, sure, but they will only receive reward like somebody who is not Mitzuvah V'Oseh, who does not have who's not commanded to do it. The Amar Reb Chanina, that says Reb Chanina Gadol Mitzuvah V'Oseh Yoser Misha Eino Mitzuvah V'Oseh. That somebody who is has a mitzvah to do something and does it, that is a higher level. There's more sachar than somebody who does not have such a mitzvah. So yes, the Nochim can sit and learn, and it's a great thing, but the reward will only be like an Eino Mitzuvah V'Oseh. Tanu Rabbanon, the Rabbi said, "Uchvar sholcho malchus Romi shnei sardiotos eitzel chachmi Yisrael," that the Roman king people sent two officers to the sages, to the Jewish sages, Lamdunu Toraschem, teach us your Torah. Karu v'shanu v'shelshu. So these officers, these officials, so they mamish learned. They learned it once, twice, 3 times. They went over and over the Torah. When they were leaving, Amru lohem, so they said to the sages, Dikdaknu b'chol toraschem. We went into detail. We went over. We reviewed your Torah, ve'emesu, and its truth. Chutz midavar zeh she'atem omrim, except for this one thing that you say, Shor shel Yisrael shenogach shor shel Kanaani potter, that the shore of a Yid who gores the shore of a Kanaani is potter. Shaknani shenogach shor shel Yisrael bin tam b'mud meshalim nezek shalim, whereas the shore of a Kanaani that gores the shore of a Yid, regardless of if it's a tam or mud, it always pays nezek shalim. Yimanav shach, I don't understand the people reason, right? These were very lomdish officials, and they said Mimanav shach, mamish like that, right? They said they used the thumb and everything. The mamish, it rubs off on you. It rubs off on you. You know, you spend time. It says, right? It says, what does it say? It says, Karu v'shanu v'shilshu. The mamish had been through Kol. They've been through Kol Torah Kula 3 times already, right? So they're already saying Nu mimanav shach. If when it says re'eu, it means re'eu to the exclusion of nachrim. Safilu de nachri kinogach the Israeli potter. So even if a nachri gores the Israel, should be potter. Be re'eu lab davkin. If re'eu is not specific, so nafilu de Israel kinogach the knani lechayiv. Well, even the shore of Yisrael, the gores the shore of Knani should be chayiv if re'eu is lab davka. But davizei non modim also the malchus. But we are not going to tell on you to the authorities. That would have gotten you in trouble. Shmuel bar Yehuda shchiva lei barta. So Shmuel bar Yehuda, his daughter passed away. Amru lei Rabbanan le'ula, and the rabbis said to Ula, Kum nezel ni ninachme. So let us go and pay a shiva call. I paid a shiva call last night. Of course, right. That's what I do. I pay shiva calls. I make minions at the cemetery, and I go to funerals. That's my thing. Although I didn't go to this funeral, but I went to the shiva call. Okay, fine. Omar lehu. So Ula says to them, "My isli gabi nechemta de bavloi." Why should I go to Babylonian shiva calls? The Gidufa, who it's like blasphemy, the army that they say, my efshalim. I guess in Babylonia, the kind of what they would say, the phrase that they would use, right? My sister-in-law is from Australia. I think in Australia they say something like, you should have a long life or something like that. I think when somebody passes away. So I guess different cultures have different phrases that they say when somebody passes away. They would say, my efshar lemebod, there's nothing that we could have done. Ha efshar lemebod avde. So Ula criticizes them and says, what does that imply, that if there was something that you could have done to kind of change the Eibishter's decree, you would have done it? Were you going to go against the Eibishter? So Azalu l'chude gabe. Nonetheless, Ula, I guess on his own, went to Shmuel bar Yehuda to pay a shiva call. Amalei. And Ula says to Shmuel bar Yehuda, "Vayomer Hashem el Moshe," that Hashem says to Moses, "Al totzer es Moab, v'al tizkar bam milchama." Don't start up, don't make war, don't wage war with Moab. V'chima Allah al daito shel Moshe lasus milchama shelo b'shus. What do you think Moshe would have actually gone to fight against Moab and waged war without consulting God first? Elanosa Moshe kavachom ba'atzmu, but Moshe made the following logical conclusion. Omar, he says, look, Midyanim shelo ba'u el Lazarus Moab, that the Midyanim only came to help Moab when they were fighting against Israel and got Bilam involved. Omar Torah, and the Torah says, Tzoros ha-Midyanim v'kisem osam, gather up the Midyanim and smite them, even though they were only accomplices. Moavim Atzman, the Moavim themselves, who hired Bilam and made a whole mess. So then, Lo kol shekain, certainly we should fight against Moab, sort of at the source. So Amallah Kadosh Baruch Hu, God says to Moses, Lok she'olsa al daitcha, olsa al dati. Look, your conclusion is not how I'm thinking about it. Shtei predis tovis yeshli lotzi mehen. I have two very good birds that will come from Ammon and Moab, from Midian and Moab. Rus Amoavia v'Naima Amonis. Rus from Moab and Naima Amonis, I guess from Midian. And continues Ula, and he says it's a kal v'chomer. Ma b'shvil shtei predis tovis chasa kadosh baruch hu abeis umis gedolos v'lachrivan. Right? Ammon and Moab, the Midianim and Moab, they should have been right. They could have been destroyed. Yet the Eibusher spared them because they would have been right. Because if you destroy them, then you destroy Rus and Naima, and so that Rus and Naima would be born later on. Ammon, Midian and Moab were spared. So Bito Shel Rebbe. So now Ula ties it in to the Nichum Avelim. He says, your daughter, Im Kshera hi, if she was Kshera, V'ru'uyi Lates Mimena Davar Tov, that something great would have come from her, Alachas Kama V'chama Da'avachaya, certainly she would have lived, right? Meaning if the Eibishter spared entire nations just for one person, well then certainly God could have spared your daughter if anything great was destined to come from her. So I think that was somehow supposed to be comforting to Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda, that don't worry, you're not missing out. Nothing great was going to happen from your daughter. Anyways, because if there was, then the Eibishter would have kept her alive. Interesting consolation. Yeah, but maybe you can kind of explain it differently, I guess, somehow to console, to saying, maybe you could look at it from the opposite perspective and say, meaning she lived a full life, right? There was nothing left that she had yet to accomplish, or, like anything that she was meant to accomplish, she accomplished, because otherwise God would have kept her alive. Maybe you could say it like that. Amar B'chia bar Abba, Amar B'Yochanan, that the Eibishter does not sort of hold back on or prevent. I don't know what the right word is right now, but a reward for anybody. Even just good speech, God rewards. Dilu bechira, that when it came to Lot, and there was the older daughter and the younger daughter, both of them slept with him to have children. Dikamra, that the older daughter says Moav, right, names the child Moav. That means that right, that the child came from her father, which is not a very nice way to speak. Sichana, so where am I? Dikamra Moav, Amra lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu leMoshe. God says to Moshe, Al totzer es Moav v'al tizkor bam milchama. Don't wage war with Moab. Milchamu delo, don't make war, but ha angaria ovidbu, but you can still what was the word? You could still you can make them avodim to bring water and food, like you could still do things to them, other things. And Seira, the younger daughter, to Ka'amr, that she says Ben Ami, much cleaner way of saying it. God says to Moses, "Ve'kiravtamu b'nei Ammon al tetzurim b'al tiskar bam klal." Don't do anything to them. Ta'afilu angaria lo savidbu. Don't even make them work for you. A person should always try to do a mitzvah first, because for the first night that first daughter, I guess, went to make children, I guess, with her father, which is kind of interesting, but I guess the intention, I think, was good, because they thought nobody was left in the world. Kadamto arba doris, the the Yisrael. So Rusa Moavia preceded Naimo Amonis by 4 generations in terms of their contribution to Am Yisrael. Oved Yishai v'David v'Shlomo, right? Rusa's offspring of Oved, Yishai, David, and Shlomo v'Lutzira ad Rechovam, but the younger daughter from Ammon, so it was Rechovam, the daughter of Shlomo and Namo Amonis, Dechsev v'Shem Imo Namo Amonis. So it took 4 subsequent generations until she got involved. Okay. Okay, so now things not so crazy, but they get just a little bit of Gemara till the end. But let's just make a push for it. Yeah, I'm still kind of exhausted. I'm recording this back to back after yesterday's daf also, so take a deep breath and let's get out of it. I'm also in. I gotta wrap up in a few minutes, so let's just go for it. This gets a little more technical. It's like actual Gemara, but I'm probably just gonna try to move quickly. Tana Rabbanan there. We start Shor Shel Yisrael Shenogach Shor Shel Kuti. The shore of Yisrael that goes the shore of a Kuti potter. So the Yisrael is part of Shel Kuti Shenogach Shor Shel Yisrael. But if the shore of a Kuti goes the shore Shel Yisrael Tam Mishalim Chatzi Nezek Amud Mishalim Nezek Shalim. So if it's so then it's just the regular halachos. If it's a short time, so it's Chatzi Nezek Shamur, it's Nezek Shalim. Meir Omer says with Meir Shor Shel Yisrael Shenogach Shor Shel Kuti. A shore of a yid that goes the shore of a kuti is a potter. V'shal kuti shenogach shore shel Yisrael. The shore of a kuti that goes the shore shel Yisrael. Bein tam bein muad mishalim nezek shalim. Whether it's tam or muad, it's going to be nezek shalim. The Meimer the Sover of Meir kutim gei arayisin. Does that imply that Meir holds that the kutim are not actually proselytes, and therefore we basically treat them like knainim, right? That if a kuti, the shore of a kuti goes to shore shel Yisrael, it's always going to be nezek shalim. Very many, we have a contradiction. Kol aksomim haboy merekem torim. Any blood stains, blood nida stains that come from rekem, we can assume that they are tahor. Rabbi Yehuda says tamim mipnei shein geirim v'torim. That no, in rekem they're Jewish. They're proselytes. They don't follow the mitzvahs so good. Okay, so if there's a stain that comes from among the nachrim, so it's tahor. Miben Yisrael umiben akutim. Now, if the stain comes miben Yisraelim or from the kutim, Reb Meir mitame. Reb Meir says tamei v'chacham mitarin. Chacham say tar shelo nechshadu al kismein. That they are not. We don't have to be concerned about their stains, that they would leave stains of damnida lying around. But we see that Reb Meir, however, right, it says he groups together he says that whether Yisrael or from the kutim, it's tamei. So Amuk of Reb Meir, so we see Reb Meir holds kutim geri emesim, that kutim are actually gerim, which is why the dam would be considered nida. So why is Reb Meir saying over here that if the shore of a kuti goes the shore of a Yisrael, it's always going to be nezek shalim? So Rabbi says, knas hu shekanos Reb Meir b'mamonam shlo yitmu boim. That Reb Meir made a special knas by the kutim because since they weren't the most gewaldige yidden, so he didn't want the people intermarrying with them. So therefore, he made this gezerah that if they gore the shor shel Yisrael, so then it's always going to be nezek shalim. Most of Reb Zera asked the kasha, elu nairis sheish lahem knas. These are the nairis that if you have these that if you sleep with them, so then there's going to be a knas involved. Abala mamzeris, a fellow sleeps with a mamzeris, val nesino, or a nesino, val akusis, or a kusis. V'isa gadaitech kanas Reb Meir b'mamonim achnam niknos kadesh. Period. So achnam niknos kadesh lo yitmu boen. So if it's true that Reb Meir basically makes these knases by these kutis, so in here also, right, if a person sleeps with a kusis, she should not get the knas, right? She should not receive anything. We don't want the kutim to receive anything. So Rabbi says, Abai Kadesh Lo Yeh Chote niskar. Yeah, but if that's the case, then we're rewarding the person who's sleeping with a kuti then he doesn't have to pay the payment. So v'neis v'laniyim, okay, but still, say he needs to pay the fine, but it doesn't go to the kutim, because we don't want to discourage people from kind of associating themselves with the kutim. Say give it to the aniyim. So I'm Rav Mari Mushum Da'avi Mamuchin Them Tovim. Says Amar, yeah, but that's no good, because it would be Mamuchin Them Tovim. It would be money that doesn't have a specific recipient, beneficiary, and therefore he can get away with never actually having to pay, because if you say pay this ani, he'll say no, I want to pay a different ani, and he just can kind of keep on pushing it off. All right, friends, I'm just exhausted. So I'm going to sign off, but it was super interesting daf. So we discussed, right, Shorshel Shnogach, Shorshel Hekdesh, Shorshel Nachrim. We saw some interesting other Gemaras. Yeah. That was the Flam Ches of Masechta BavaKama. Enjoy. Peace out.